are back with another episode of MUVA. Today we have my special guest, Mariella Price, who will introduce herself and tell us about all the amazing things that she's doing, from Jazz Babies to being a featured performer on Sesame Street and being a mom, which is the cornerstone of what's going on here. We are a podcast, having conversations, intimate conversations, spilling tea, sharing trials and triumphs about our intersection of living as a mom, a person of color, an artist in this world and in this environment, in this atmosphere. So I'll turn it over to you, Mariella. The floor is yours. This is about you and giving you a platform to share your voice. So please tell us about yourself, where you're from, and what you've been up to.
All right. Hi, everyone. Hi, Malika. Nice to be here. As you said, I am a mother, a woman of color, currently in midlife, living in Queens, New York City. I have a small business called Jazz Baby Music, which I started about 4, maybe 5 years ago now, which started as a way for me to save some money on my son's daycare. The woman who ran the daycare knew that I was a performer. My husband was a performer, and she said, would either one of you want to come and do a music program for our 2s and our 3s, and I'll knock off X amount off your tuition? And I said, I'll do it. And that began this whole side business, which became my full-time business now. And I kind of grew as it happened. I grew with it and learned what I was doing and got very good at it. So that's how Jazz Baby came about. Malika, you're a Ridgewood,
on the border of Ridgewood,
crew. Yeah, so all of this started in Ridgewood. Ridgewood kind of, was my little cradle.
Yeah.
Held me up. And through Jazz Baby, got to meet a lot of wonderful moms, parents, people. It's funny, many years ago, I was like 20, I was at a bar and they had a tarot card reader. And I think one of my questions, I was like, am I going to be famous? And she pulled out some cards and she was like, yeah, but not in the way that you think. And she was 100% right, because I'm Ridgewood famous.
Yes, you are. I constantly see people asking about things in the moms groups, and I'm like, Jazz Babies. I still haven't been yet, admittedly, because it's just, I'm in grad school right now, and that's part of the foundation of what I'm doing here. But we have total intentions and plans to join you.
It's gonna be so much fun.
Music, and I feel like he's a percussion player. Like he's a percussionist. Like he's always hitting things, and he loves the tambourine. And I have different various bells and shakers, and he really understands like the difference between the sounds. And he'll sit there and be like, "This one sounds like this," and I can see him like the wheels turning in his brain with the different sounds. It's pretty awesome to see how.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, we play with percussion. Class is very percussive heavy because everyone reacts to percussion, and it's a great, I think, intro for rhythm and understanding dynamics, and it's just fun.
Yeah, and the
drum to shake something,
like they say, is the heartbeat, right? The heartbeat of Mother Earth that we all are tapped into. Yeah, amazing. So with all of this, tell me, actually, let's rewind. I want to hear a little bit about where you come from and your education.
Okay. I was born here in New York City. My parents moved to Florida when I was really young. I think like 2 or 3 years old. And I moved back to New York when I was 18, close to 19 years old. I did some community college. College at that point wasn't for me. I have like a dream that I go back at some point.
I'm back at 35, 36. I dropped out
You
out of
did.
undergrad.
Okay.
And I totally never thought that I would go back. And then COVID happened, and I was like, I need a pivot. Like, I feel like I just felt like performing. Well, at that point, because I didn't have any plans to have a kid, but I knew I wanted to have a kid. I knew I just wanted to create some kind of security or stability in my life, and I wasn't sure how to do it. And so I was like, let me just finish where I left off. That was kind of like my intent. So I finished. I had only one semester left, and I did it all online, and consolidated my debt with the collectors, like made a agreement over the phone, and that then enabled me to go to grad school, which this is part of my final thesis, is putting together this conscious community of women who are performing artists and mothers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's always there. It's not going anywhere.
I think that's amazing. I always flew by the seat of my pants. You know, and even in pregnancy, even in, you know, early motherhood, I was still kind of like, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I've always kind of felt like the path reveals itself. If you're, you know, if you're on your path, you're close enough to your path, if you can kind of see where your path is and get back to it. And, well, Jazz Baby provided that sense of security that was kind of missing before. You know, up until rewind. After short college stint, I went to China for a few months to do a gig out there. And I think that just kind of changed the game. When I came back, I was like, I can't go back to school. I'm just gonna, I'm working. I'm working right now. This is what I'm doing. And I started taking lots and lots of lessons with people at that point. I had a piano teacher, I had a voice teacher. I was taking lots of music theory at the new school. I think you go to the new school, So I was at the new school like multiple times a week at night with different professors doing different things. And I just kind of really dove in, and I've been working ever since.
Cultivating being able to focus and cultivate your craft. I mean, a lot of musicians, especially singers that I know, and even myself, were kind of self-taught. So,
there's lots of that also. But I don't know. I think it's great to go back and learn from someone that's way better, or, you know, much more schooled than you are, and then you have those
I think
aha
I like
moments.
to harken back to something that you had said earlier, just about following your intuition, and I think that is so much what motherhood is about. You grow this whole human being that changes your being, and there's nothing really you can do to listen or follow what's happening in the outside. It's a very internal, individual, well, not individual, it's a conversation between you, the baby, and God, however you believe in that. And you got to go within. You have no choice.
Just kind of go with the flow, see what happens. You just,
about
you know,
that's like there's a light bulb going off for me. That's like, that's what it's about. Like, I feel like we focus, or the world maybe, or this male driven world and dynamic is focusing so hard on the outward, right? And looking for the external validation and guidance, when really that internal star, what's the word, North Star, right, is really like kind of the key, and that softness that it takes to like really just like be here instead of up here.
No, absolutely. It's being able to listen and kind of trust. I think my entire adult life has just been like trust. All right, we're doing this. All right, we're doing this. I'm pregnant. All right, doing this.
It's like all the conversations, Marielle, I'm telling you, they all come to this point. this is kind of like the meeting ground that we're all, the common ground that I'm seeing in all these conversations. Like, yeah, our internal guideposts, our internal North Star, God, universe, our inner voice, whatever it is, it's cultivated by that initiation of becoming a mother, and then add that with the tool belt of being a performing artist, someone who's improvisational, used to thinking on the fly, communicating in the moment with people and really listening, having that skill of listening to the subtle changes in rhythm, timbre, and vibration. There's something really really powerful about being a mom.
It's funny you talk about listening to the subtle changes. It's like when you're on the bandstand and there's a solo happening, and while that solo's happening, you're prepping the next song, you're thinking of what you're going to do next, you're reaching down, grabbing your drink, you're looking at the sound guy, hey, can you turn this up, can you turn this down, and you still have one ear on where are we in the form, and you hear it, you're like, okay, I got that, 3, 2, 1, and
Octopussy. Wow, everything, all the R's and the different places listening, and then like being, another girlfriend was like, yeah, and then being 3 steps ahead of the kid.
And 3 seconds. Exactly. I'm cooking dinner. I'm listening. I'm studying music, and then I'm also like, wait a minute, I don't hear you. What are you doing? Oh, you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing.
Facts. When it gets quiet, that's when you know something's about to happen. It's like the pull, the boomerang is like, oh, something's happening.
Yeah. That's when you better run.
Well, my kid isn't walking yet, so I don't exactly know what you're talking about, but I feel like, yeah. Oh, I will. Yeah.
I had a whole series on Facebook and Instagram of photos that I would take after I'd get out of the bath, and I'd get out and I'd be like, oh, my son installed a water feature in the living room.
He's an architect.
He's an architect. Look at all these beautiful changes. He works fast.
Wow. It's amazing. God, the creative force is just like so strong. Man, I feel like there's so much more we can say about that, but I want to move on to these other questions because I think it's all connected too. I'm just like, I think about like who for you were the maternal like containers, like the most influential maternal figures in your life who kind of shaped the kind of mom that you want to be or the kind of artist you want to be, whether it be your biological mom or other people that have stepped into your life. Can you share a little bit about them?
Yeah, I'm going to start with the business standpoint. When I started my business, it was like the universe kind of came together and sent me all these women entrepreneurs. And that was like constantly being like, it was like the universe was like, okay, you've arrived here. Fantastic. This is where you're supposed to be. So now we're going to send you all these women that know this other skill that you don't know. And they're going to kind of guide you on your way. And they were, women that were telling me, oh, did you set this up yet? Did you set that up yet? Have you thought about this? Here's my accountant. Women who own businesses and were like, hey, why don't you do your class in my business? All kinds of amazing, opportunities that kind of showed me that, yeah, if you are listening to that inner voice, like you said, and following your path, that shines on your path. And I felt like for many years, it was less about creating and more about building. And that was many, many years. And then fast forward a few years later, 3 years later, I, woke up one day, I don't know if as you do, with a melody, a word. And then it was just like, and I'm creating again.
I've been trying to capture the moments because for me, it's nighttime or nap time. The lullabies that come to me and through me. And then I started to have I need to have my phone. But then I was like, wait, I've got a camera in the room. So I go back and I'm like listening. And actually part of MUVA, this whole podcast movement, I'm using to connect individually with the artists that I'm being drawn to. And then on April 12th, we're actually having a showcase featuring, I think right now we got 3 other artist moms are going to be performing, including myself. And so all that to say, 2 of the songs that I'm performing are based off lullabies that came to me. One of them was before I even thought I would ever have a kid. It's kind of like this like cosmic, like soul soothing lullaby tune that came to me. And then another one is like one I actually wrote like, oh yeah, I'm going to have a child. Let me write this song for my future child. Speak to their soul. And it's so crazy because I'm like, yeah, I wasn't building. I wasn't creating. I was building this reality that was coming through me. And like, I was in bringing the song to life. That's my phone. Oh, are you there? So in bringing the song to life, I'm creating this experience in the future, even being like, my son is going to love this melody. I'm going to sing about how he should walk in the world and to never let him, to never hold his head down, that spirit has him, that I have him. And yeah, that you will just be loved, that you will be loved. And that's so much of what we do, even if you're not. I think there are maternal figures that I can harken back to that like even showed me ways that I don't want to love, but at the end of the day, they nurtured something within me that I'm carrying on through my creation of this next human being's life and our experience together. Yeah. So tell me more about the other maternal figures in your life. Any like shadow figures, like ones that you maybe learned ways that you don't want to be, or
I guess healing generational traumas, that's been a big thing that I've been thinking about lately. Something that I didn't set out to do, but just I've done naturally through living, healing and all that stuff. And I guess, healing some of the mistakes that my grandmothers made or the mistakes that, happened generations back in our family, through women who lived hard lives and loved the best way they knew how, but, were repeating cycles of abuse. And fortunate that my mom was able to break. She was the one able to break away, and then I was kind of able to follow that and deepen that. And I'm sure the ancestors are celebrating.
Yeah.
Like,
where's your family from?
They're Ecuadorian.
Amazing.
Both sides.
Yeah. I so much of what you're saying is resonating, and I think that part of the art and the heart that's in the art, like kind of does that. It brings us to a creative place where we can like maybe look at those things and know how to, or just know from the creative process how to make something new to make.
All the and I think all the healing that happened when I became a mother too. That was like a huge thing I didn't know would be a thing, but it was a thing. All of a sudden I'm forgiving experiences and forgiving and forgiving myself and moving on. I remember I had a fallout with a friend who I swore I would never speak to again, and then I became a mother and had my son for several months, and I was like, I don't care anymore. Like, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at anybody.
Yeah. It opens you up. Literally, figuratively, spiritually. emotionally.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think consciously creating, like seeing the opportunity as you're on the path too, to allow the forgiveness and the softness, which I think a lot of it comes from like self-compassion and being able to, even in that moment, I saw it as like the ability to accept myself and see where I was and be like, and I think when you said that, I'm like, yeah, everything else just seems so small.
Yeah, it really does. And you know, when especially those new magic moments and you have this tiny little baby and you can't really do anything and you can't really go anywhere. And, you know, I remember the naps and he'd be here. And that's where we were. And it was like, you need to slow down and you need to kind of chill out and you need to make peace with that. And I think a lot of other peace happens within that piece of like, this is where we are.
I think
yeah,
that's why I wanted to create this. I don't know what it's going to be, a platform, a residency, a showcase, like tours, and we have workshops in each city. I don't know what it's going to be. All things are possible, but I think the most important piece of this work of bringing us together is because, like you said, it's like when you focus on that piece, it starts to magnify and ripple out into other aspects of your life. And I want to hold on to that. I just think that that is so tender and precious, and we're in a constant state of creation. So to remember constantly that we are to go back to that space, support each other, returning back to that space, and sharing it with the world in the ways that we are called to do. Yeah. Did you always want to be a mom?
I did. I did. And then I, entered the swing of things and I was like raring and going. And then, my son wasn't planned. So it was a surprise. And I think when I got that surprise, I had that like a moment of anxiety where I was like, what does this mean? But I'm doing this and I'm doing this. And I want to continue living my life. And I remember calling up friends who were mothers and also creatives, and everyone was like, it doesn't stop. It doesn't ever stop. Like you keep going and you find ways to adapt and you find ways to make things work in your life, and you also let things go that aren't serving you anymore. And that's exactly what happened. I continued performing throughout my pregnancy. Wow! I labored on the bandstand.
Yes, I love that.
Yes. My son came a little early, and I knew it was coming. I didn't know that I was in labor, but I was in labor. And I had 2 gigs in a row. I showed up to this brunch gig, this jazz brunch gig, and the guitar player was like, I think you're having a baby. And I was like, I'm good. I was like, I'm good. But I remember,
woman, shit.
I'm telling you. But I remember I was so uncomfortable at home, sitting doing nothing. I couldn't sit, I couldn't stand, I couldn't do anything. So I was like, this is the most used I can sing, and this is going to help me take my mind off of it. And sure enough, taking all those deep breaths and focusing on, the verses and the chorus and the form, and thinking of like what song we're going to do next. And, the time flew. 3 hours went by, a few more contractions, and he was like, I think you're definitely
I love this story. Love it. I love that.
And sure enough, got home, my water broke, and, and from the hospital, my husband's calling up, cats, and they're like, hey, can you cover her tomorrow? Because she's having a baby right now.
Wow. It's like life is happening. Like, yeah, I'm having a baby, but we need to get through this song.
We need to get through this song, and we got 2 more songs to go before we take a break.
Oh my gosh, I could so relate. I was in class, like holding like hanging onto the
You
wall,
were in class.
walking down 13th Street, going to my lecture. Like, I'm fine. These are just it's just pre-labor. It's just pre-labor. I'm fine.
Yep. Same. Everyone else,
They're like,
they
girl,
looked at me. They're
go
like,
home.
you look so good.
And I was the same. I was like, no, I need to keep going. Like, I need to do this A for my kid and B for me. Like, I don't want to just sit at home by myself.
Yeah. You know, there was also, and I don't know if this happened for you, but for me, I also had this like deep fear of not being hired again or not being called or not being, you know, all this stuff that I needed to prove to everyone that, hey, I'm still good. I'm still good. Like, hey, I'm good. I'm good. And so I think, yeah, maybe I should have maybe taken those 2 weeks, those last 2 weeks
But
off.
maybe that was the best thing you ever did.
Maybe.
I mean,
Yeah.
talk about superhuman. Yeah.
It's definitely a good story.
They
you
ended
know?
nothing but. I love that. And
Yeah.
it makes me think about just like how the world that we live in now and how supportive or unsupportive it is for us to be life-giving human beings and also be part of society and continue on in the paths that sometimes we haven't even really chosen. They chose us, you know. So I'm thinking about like different resources maybe that need to be invented. So in the future, you know, moms or birthing people can feel supported and continue to contribute as a performing artist, specifically because it requires our body to be physically in the space. And then what you're saying, the whole transformation aspect, and then, well, am I going to get booked if I'm a little bit heavier, if I'm older? Now I have a kid to think about, like, am I going to make enough to pay for childcare? There's so many variables and aspects of our experience that I think need to have a light shown on them and needs needs support and needs systems built around them.
Definitely. You know, all of this, and I managed to do a lot, requires so much emotional labor. I spend so much time thinking of, like you said, childcare is like a big thing. And you know, I get offered some gigs that I take because I have to take it. It's a place I want to play. I want to get booked at again, or there's someone on the bandstand that I really want to play with, or I just feel like playing. I want to put on a dress. I want to go somewhere. I want to leave my kid at home, and I do it. And sometimes I do it for free. By the time I'm done paying someone to take care of my son and Uber them home, and you know, there's like the 85% of the time where I'm like really like racking my brain trying to figure out, okay, how can I do this and do it for like free, you know, not paying someone? Who can I call? When can I, you know? And it's our Google Calendar at home is like crazy because we're always checking in with each other to see like, are you home? Are you home? What time what's the latest you can leave for your gig? Okay, and you know, all this maneuvering of you know the timing. But you know, we're both performers. We both figured out a way to make it work, and somehow we're not broke or destitute. So we're doing all right.
And I think just even in what you're saying, what if there was some kind of a childcare service, like, or a grant even? I mean, and then I think about how many grants are actually even available to performing artists. So few. And then forget about adding childcare as a line item in that grant. Like, you know.
And it should be. Oh my God, that would be huge.
Like a really big thing for me. Like, I hate that so much. As well as residencies, it's so rare. You can actually, like, if you want to develop something to make an album, like, you can't bring your kids. And even that's just even upstate. I'm like, great. So I'm going to come basically $200 a day out of pocket for someone who's going to take a day rate. When you're lucky, somebody will take, okay, I'm hiring you for 5 days, and then you can, work something out. I'm sure bartering and discounted rates. I mean, I've done it all. So I'm sure, we have to get inventive, but at the same time, it's like, what if there were more support systems in place? Forget about the emotional labor, just even the financial aspect of just knowing that you're covered so you can continue your craft. And then go to the financial labor or the emotional labor aspect. And that's part of why I want to put this community together, because I think the more conversations that we have, we can come up with solutions, bring solutions to people who have the influence or the positioning to work with us. I think New York is just one of those amazing places where I really see it. I see something happening, whether it's, residency where there's childcare provided, or a couple K for, I don't know, because leaving your kid overnight is a whole other thing, but being able to have a babysitter come with you upstate when you stay at a house with your band.
Yeah. I have in the past, for like big opportunities, just paid for my mom to fly up and stay with him. I played tiny desk. You don't say no when you get called for the tiny desk. So that cost me several $100s to fly my mother up, and have my mom stay with my son for a couple days so that I could drive down to DC and, play for 10 minutes.
It sounds
but
crazy,
I needed to do it.
This is our reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing. I did a Carnegie Hall tribute. I played a Carnegie Hall tribute for Aretha Franklin. It was like an all-star, like if I tell you who I sang with, it's nuts. And I spent like 90% of what I made on the babysitter. Yeah. But I needed to do it, because if you get a call and, hey, do you want to play with Melissa Etheridge at Carnegie Hall? You say, okay.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
As a matter of fact. How much is it going to cost me? Yeah. Oh,
exactly.
Mariella, this conversation has just been so refreshing and amazing. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your energy today. I just have one last question I ask everybody who comes on the show about, because there is no guide, there's no how-to book, right? So if you were to write a how-to guide book, and maybe you called it The Art of Blankety Blank, what would you call yours?
The Art of Flying by the Seat of Your Pants.
On that note, I need to go because I have another. Exactly. On to the next branch. Perch.
All right.
You're amazing. Of course, we'll talk soon. Mwah.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.